Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is war, specifically war with the Russian bear. So I've already covered this in length. It took almost a whole program, but I summarized it because this is very important for us to keep in mind. Okay, essentially what this vision showed, and this is Byron of You Be Ready, and he heard the words in this vision, the show has begun. Now, I believe that that's talking about the big war that eventually is going to be Armageddon, and that involves the Russian bear and the Muslim leopard. He said he saw a large ring with clowns amusing the crowd, and I think that that's what a lot of the TV and radio and things like that is doing. They want to keep the average person amused until they take over. He saw a Russian bear and also the Muslim, which is representing the leopard, or the leopard representing the Muslims. And then he saw an angel ripping pages out of the Constitution, setting them on fire, and the clowns, meaning the people, poured gasoline on it. So the Constitution, our beloved Constitution, is going away. Then the bear knocked the book out of the ringmaster's hand. In other words, Russia will be responsible for destroying the Constitution. The parrot represented the people that just repeat what they hear. I see these guys that talk to people on the street. They don't know what's going on. They just repeat what they hear on CNN and the other like. He saw three monitors. The first one had war without bombs. In other words, that's war of words. That's where we are right now. Second had war with bombs, and I don't think that's talking about Russia, Ukraine. I think it's talking about wars after that explode and get bigger. Then he saw the third was people running for their lives, and then the ringmaster or Jesus returned. The tent went black. Then that's the sun going out for 72 hours before Jesus returns. Then the blinding light or the morning star destroying it all. I think that this is a real good overview of us essentially, when it says the show has begun, he's basically saying Armageddon has begun. I think it started, as I've said many times, February 22nd of 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. And while there might be some kind of a ceasefire, there might be some kind of an agreement saying that we now have peace, at the end of the day, when Russia invaded Ukraine, you watch. It will eventually escalate into Armageddon. All right, now, for you to understand this, and I'm going to read a couple of scriptures here. I know people don't like scriptures. That's sad, but that's very important. So I made this DVD many years ago. And by the way, you can watch it at watchprophecyclub.com. But it helps you to understand. If you look here, you see the Muslim leopard, the American eagle's wings, and then the Russian bear, and in the middle represents the world government that is coming. And by the way, you can watch this whole thing, which is, I think it's a 4-hour DVD. Watch it instantly, $20 a month or $200 a year, over 300 different DVDs at watchprophecyclub.com. But today what we're talking about is the Russian leopard and the eagle's wings and the Russian bear. We're talking about those three. All right, so let's go on. So I've covered this a lot of times, but this is complicated for a lot of people, so let me take a second here. Okay, first of all, Daniel 7:4. This is Daniel's vision of the last days, and this is probably one of the most important parts in Bible prophecy in the entire Bible. Essentially, it shows the last 4 superpowers that will be ruling the planet just before Jesus returns. So he says, the first thing I saw was a lion that had eagle's wings. It's not talking about England, the lion. It's referring, the whole point is to show you that it's talking about America. The eagle's wings came out of the English lion. And it also says he made it stand upon the feet as a man, meaning that God made a nation, America, out of a nation that was not a nation. And God gave America a man's heart. And of course, we are a nation that has a heart. I mean, we don't even punish our own criminals like most other nations do. So the first one would be America. The second one would be the Russian bear, and it would say, arise and devour much flesh. This is not talking about the past. This is talking about in the future, once the Russian bear is made. And of course, the Russian bear historically has already killed a bunch of people. but it's nothing compared to what they're going to do in the future. Now, let me call your attention to the third one. The third one is the leopard. And I've talked about why the leopard is talking about the Muslim faith or Islam. And it has 4 wings of a fowl, which represents 4 land masses. Each of those land masses has a leader. That third beast is not in place and has not been in place. So we're not totally to the world government yet, but the world government is a 4th beast. Dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, had great iron teeth. And I could spend an hour talking about this, but let me move quickly. Then I saw 3 of the first horns picked up or pulled up by the roots. Now, what it's saying is that they're going to form a 10-nation world government, and out of those, there'll be an 11th rise, and then that this 11th will overcome 3 of them, making a total of 8 nations. And then it says, and the eyes of that man, which is the Antichrist, will have a mouth speaking great things, which confirms what he was told in Revelation 13:2. Now, essentially, let's get to the point. The point is, you'll see America, eagle's wings, the Russian bear, the Islamic leopard, the third beast has not risen yet. And then you'll see a world government. We haven't got to this one yet. However, this particular, at the conclusion of this October the 7th war with Israel, we could very, very possibly see the rise of the leopard with lines on the maps redrawn. All right, now, that's the point I want to make today as we move forward. Arise, devour much flesh. Now let's go to some of the headlines. Putin issues U.S. list of demands to achieve a 30-day ceasefire. And he says, look, Ukrainians have been beaten back on all fronts, and at this point, they can't get out of this. In other words, West and Ukraine has to realize that Russia has defeated them, and that Russia is holding all the cards, and that Russia is going to dictate the terms of the peace. And I think Russia is trying to be nice about it, but essentially that's what they're saying. Okay, so it says that Russia wants guarantees during this 30-day ceasefire. In other words, a 30-day ceasefire is normally not good for the winning party. It's good for the losing party to give them time to take a breath, to rearm, and to get ready to fight again. So he says Ukraine will not conduct a mobilization and will not train soldiers and will not receive any weapons. That's point number 1. If Russia agrees to the 30-day ceasefire. Point number 2, Ukrainian forces could use a ceasefire period to regroup, receive more weapons, train fresh recruits. They don't want that. Also, systems of control and verification to monitor a ceasefire are not in place, but should be agreed. So the Russians are saying, yeah, we agree to the ceasefire, but it can't be to just allow the Ukrainians to get ready to fight more. It has to actually head toward a stop. Okay, so Witkoff has now gone to Russia, and they said, okay, this is their terms. So Russia provided Witkoff with the terms for the Ukraine. If there's going to be a stop to this, this is what Russia wants. 1, Ukraine cannot join NATO at any other time, military bloc, anything. And Ukraine must agree to be denazified. Remember, I showed you a picture of a World War II helmet with the SS on it, and then a modern Ukrainian helmet with the SS on it. I'm telling you that Ukrainians are Nazis, and that's one of the big, it's not all of it, but it's one of the big reasons Russia invaded, to get rid of the Nazis. They are the problem, the scourge of the earth, okay? And that's who we fought in World War II. Russia's still fighting them, but we switched sides, thanks to Biden. All right, anyway. Ukraine must agree that the territories now added to Russia from the conflict are Russian forever, and there be no deployment of foreign troops on Ukraine territory for any reason. In other words, no boots on the ground. You want to stop fighting? Here's what we want. We want you to denazify. Well, why is that not something that they could do? I think they could do it. He goes on to say that Ukraine stated flatly Ukraine refuses to give its bid to join NATO. Well, we've got an answer for that here in just a second. Henry Ford said, if there's any one secret to success, it lies in the ability to see things from the other person's point of view and to get to that point of view. Meaning, Russia is trying to see things from Ukrainian point of view, but Ukraine doesn't want to see things from Russia's point of view. Both has to see things and to work together to get past this. Next article. Okay, so again, the whole point is war. And this is talking about war between China and Taiwan, possibly. This is a big boat that China has built to be able to offload its military equipment on Taiwan should it want to. Let's go on to the next one. Back to Putin. Putin says Ukrainians face choice of surrender or die as Russia tightens squeeze in Kursk. So what the deal is Russia has surrounded the Ukrainians in the city of Kursk, and they're going to die unless they surrender. A ceasefire only benefits those who are retreating, Russia says. In other words, Russia doesn't have to have a ceasefire. Russia wants Ukrainians to be denazified. He wants them to actually lay down their weapons, and the land that Russia has conquered, they get to keep, which is substantial. It's bigger than the state of Texas. It's almost like twice the size of Texas. That's the amount of land that Russia has conquered. He says the Ukraine war latest. Troops must surrender to spare their lives. As I said, that's where they are right now. Putin urges Kyiv to order troops in Kursk region to surrender. They're surrounded. And if they don't surrender, you're just going to kill them all. But it's going to be thousands of Ukrainian troops die just because they won't surrender. Now, let me say something. I think that the real objective, I think behind the scenes, if we could listen to the plans of the devil, because probably, can't prove what I'm about to say, probably Ukraine and Russia are both serving up to the devil. They probably both dance to the tune of the devil and what he says. What makes me think that I think that there's a good possibility that there's a plan behind Russia and Ukraine. In other words, what if Russia and Ukraine, I'm talking about the very, very top leaders, are actually working together with this plot to destroy America? You say, what? Okay, now wait a minute, follow me here. So what if, now, Russia doesn't like Ukraine and Ukraine doesn't like Russia. It's been that way for history for a long time. Okay, so we understand that, but it could be that they both have the same boss, and it could be that they do as they're told. So what if their objective was to get Americans to send all of our equipment, in addition to what we just left in Afghanistan, our military equipment over to Ukraine until the point that we had none, and even to the point to where we would put American boots on the ground spilling American blood in Ukraine, which would then give Russia the excuse they've been looking for to attack and destroy America in 1 hour, as Dmitry Duduman was told. You say, no, wait a minute. Why would they do that? Well, because Russia wants, you remember the vision that Dmitry was given where he said he saw the head of Russia, the head of China, and some other smaller Russian territories, and the angel pointed and said, this is what they're planning. But the way it'll happen is the way I told you. So I think that Russia and probably Ukraine's ultimate goal is not war between Russia and Ukraine. Again, I can't prove this, okay? But I wonder if it's not the real objective is to get America weakened, get America involved in the war so Russia can attack and destroy America. Wait a minute. Why would Russia have to have America involved in Ukrainian war for Russia to attack her? I mean, can't Russia just sneak up and just attack and destroy us in 1 hour? Well, theoretically, yes. But then all the world would see what Russia did in destroying America without a cause. So this could be where Russia can say, wait a minute, America sent not only military equipment as we have, but America also sent boots on the ground against us, which we haven't. But if they can get America to do that, then that may be all of a sudden, wait a minute, they attacked us first. If you look at what Biden did, to me, all of the articles coming in, to me, it said that Biden is trying to give Russia the excuse to attack and destroy America in 1 hour. Everything he was doing. If you look back on those programs, the various articles I sent, that could be one of their ulterior motives. Let's go on. However, here's a little good news. Yesterday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is now confirming that NATO membership for Ukraine is off the table. Good. And I'm going to tie that together with something else here in just a second. And he has accepted that Trump holds all the cards. NATO officials are beginning to accept the fate that this conflict is soon going to be over, and the money laundering operation is over, also done. Granted, Rutte, now I do not know this next phrase is accurate, but assuming he knows what he's talking about. Granted, Rutte is still a slimy, Soros-owned politician, but it appears even he knows when he is beaten. Trump is dictating the terms for the agreement between Russia and Ukraine, and there's nothing the EU or the NATO officials can do about it. Rutte is admitting Ukraine membership is off the table is a massive step towards ending this war. Okay, well, as I read other sources, what they're telling me that the real, how do I say it? Sometimes things happen on different levels, okay? Right after Reagan got up and said, Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And Gorbachev did 2 years later, but he had to pull like 300,000 Russians out of East Germany in order to do it. And the agreement was, if you will pull down this wall, if you will pull all of your troops out of East Berlin and let Germany unite, then we promise that the West will not go 1 inch further east toward you. So they did it for security reasons, because Russia for somehow thinks that America is going to attack and destroy Russia. Well, why would they think that? Well, since then, America has been the one violating that contract. We've been the one that has been getting this country and this country more NATO nations moving that line eastward. And Russia has, according to the article I read, has obeyed their part of the agreement. It's been the West that has been the one that broke the agreement. Wait a minute, the West, we're the good guys, we're the Christians. Well, can you say that about Obama? Can you say that about Biden? No, you can't, okay? So we've had some evil leadership. Matter of fact, we still have evil leadership. Okay, so the point is, it does look like a lot of our prayers may be getting us past this. It may be that the reason we're getting this good news, the reason that Russia-Ukraine is hopefully moving toward a ceasefire, that's what we want to pray for, maybe those prayers are being answered. Let's go on. Now, this was the big prayer, and I spent a whole program reading all this, so I won't read the whole thing again. But my good friend Michael Snyder said he heard the audible voice of God, and there's all the details. You want to pause and read it, you can. But he said in the dream, he says, Donald Trump is an old school businessman from New York City. He has a very unique negotiating style. When Trump is trying to get something accomplished and there is resistance, sometimes he will say crazy things or make serious threats in order to put the other side off balance. No, he threatens in order to get his way. And don't we all, okay? Don't we all say something like, well, if you do that, then I'm going to do this. Okay, it's part of human nature. He says, in cases where Trump has the most of the leverage, this approach has worked well. But here it is. In other cases, that such an approach will not be wise at all. And the voice specifically said, I heard in the dream a voice, if Trump follows his usual pattern of making outrageous statements and threats to the Russians, it'll backfire severely. Meaning, whole point was, I think that God was telling Michael Snyder to get his team and all the people that would listen praying against the Trump and the Trump negotiating team. Don't push the Russians around. Don't make them mad. If you do, instead of you being destroyed umpteen years, hopefully, at least 3 or 4 years down the road, the destruction of America may come sooner. He says, I was told the same thing by this voice multiple times with a lot of force. He says, we need to pray that the President Trump will make wise decisions. Now, up at the top right corner, you see Fast Track. So we have 1,450 people on Fast Track. That's the prayer team that prays for Prophecy Club. We also have another team called Fast Gap. There's about 850 people on that. And we fast every Tuesday evening from midnight to 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. And I give them the prayer that I'd like for them to pray. Fast Track is about Prophecy Club, the Johnson family, and what God has called us to do. Whereas Fast Gap specifically is praying for America. So if you want to join that, you go to Prophecy Club, slide to the bottom, prophecyclub.com, and at the bottom you can sign up for Fast Track or Fast Gap or maybe even both. And you can quit anytime you want to. My promise is I never ask you for donations. I never send product offers. This is only if you want to fast and pray for either Prophecy Club, America, or both. And I got our team praying for this. Matter of fact, for the last month, this is the primary thing both teams have been praying for. And every time I put out a prayer request to those, it gets answered. I mean, these days, it's hard to get two people together to pray about anything. When you got almost 1,500 people fasting and praying, that's like a sledgehammer in the spirit. And I think that our prayers, I can't take, and I'm not even going to try to take all of the blame or the credit, whatever you want to say. But I know that a lot of it happened because of our prayers. Now, let's go on a couple more things here. This is the prayer that I asked them to pray. You can pause and read it if you want to. But I want to conclude with this. Okay, Latvian president says Europe should absolutely bring back conscription. What's conscription? It means when I was growing up, you had to join the military. But I was the last year where they had conscription, and then they went to volunteer, Army, Navy, whatever. It's all volunteer. But they're saying, what this is saying is that Europe, and this is not the only thing it's saying, Europe is preparing for war. My brothers and sisters, Europe is preparing for war. Now, what is all this saying? It's saying that we are on the cusp of a great big war. Let me show you something else. This is today. So it says Safe Haven Gold clears $3,000 an ounce for the first time. It says that gold pierced through psychological milestone $3,000 an ounce on Friday for the first time, building on a historic rally as trade tensions U.S. rate cut bets supercharge its appeal as a safe haven asset. Spot gold was up 0.4% to $3,000.87 an ounce. Gold futures are up to $3,013.60. So bullion has scaled 13 all-time highs so far this year and is on track for a second straight week of gains. What does that mean? Remember, gold does not go up or down. Gold is a store of value. Like, for example, in Abraham Lincoln's day, a 1 ounce gold coin bought you a nice set of clothes. Today, a 1 ounce gold coin will buy you a nice set of clothes. I'm talking about a businessman's suit. So the value of gold really doesn't go up or down. What goes up or down? The value of our dollar. So what's this saying? It's saying the value of our dollar continues to fail. But what does that say regarding war? It says that a lot of people are losing faith in the dollar. A lot of people think that we are just around the corner from a lot of trouble. And I think you don't have to be a prophecy student to be saying, you know what? Something's not right. Something's not right. We're in big trouble. So I would recommend that you go to josephkitchen.com, get yourself some food, 800-200-GOLD, get yourself some gold or silver. Remember, Shane Warren said silver's going to skyrocket far more than gold. Again, I can't give financial advice, but I would suggest you pray and ask God to show you what to do. Now a word from our sponsors. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper. And as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice. In 2021, I started making bread. And long story short is I believe God showed me that wheat is God's famine food, just like it was famine food back in the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, days of Pharaoh and Joseph. And I believe that that's what God has planned to feed his people. And you get it by going to josephskitchen.com. 3 steps. First, you want to get a machine package. Second, you want to order 6 ingredients and watch some videos, download the recipes to be able to make the bread. josephskitchen.com. Most of your long-time storage food, emergency food, all of that, typically are talking $9,000, $10,000 to feed one person for a year. Joseph Kitchen can show you how to do it for around $1,000 a person, and your kids will actually eat it, and it's actually good for you. Here's some bread that I made. In my case, I lost weight, lowered my blood pressure, gives me more energy. I eat a morning, slice in the morning, slice in the afternoon, always a slice before I go play racquetball. Go check it out, josephskitchen.com. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these. From EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps your Prophecy Club. I'd recommend you get Potassium Iodide at prophecyclub.com. When a nuclear device is detonated, the wind blows the dust, and it's like fine dust. It's like powder. And it settles on everything. You breathe, eat, or absorb radioactive iodine. You pretty much can't avoid it, which kills your thyroid, killing you. But a simple fix is to simply take potassium iodide pills, which then floods your thyroid with good iodine, keeping the radioactive iodine out. You need 1 bottle per person per exposure for everyone from infant to adult, available. 10 bottles for a gift of $150, which is what I recommend, or $20 a bottle at prophecyclub.com. Shelf life 5 to 8 years, potentially more if you refrigerate it, or even more if you freeze it. Potassium iodide pills, prophecyclub.com. Right now we have them in stock, but so many people are ordering them, you may have to wait a while to get them.